Welcome to Pixarize's scene for Hartnup disease, part of our three-part series on vitamin B3, or niacin. So far, we've covered niacin biochemistry and function, as well as niacin deficiency and excess. This scene takes place in a garden where a free-loving, sustainability-preaching hippie is tending to his turnip patch. So grab your trowels, hold in your niacin-deficient bowels, and get ready to turn up for Hartnup. First, turn your attention to the fresh organic produce to which our gardener is tending. Those aren't just any old turnips. They're heart-shaped turnips. And he grows them without any preservatives or pesticides. What's your secret, Mr. Eco-Conscious? My money's on genetic engineering. Or maybe he grows heart-shaped turnips by adding extra love. Anyway, the heart-shaped turnips he's growing should help us remember that this scene is about Hartnup disease. Because those are definitely heartnups. Heartnups are a real vegetable now, just FYI. Now, let's focus in on our hippie gardener. Notice how he's holding the pellagra pail from our scene for vitamin B3 deficiency. Hartnup disease causes many of the same pellagra-like or pale-agra-like symptoms seen in niacin-deficient patients. These include diarrhea, which we've represented with our gardener's soiled slacks, dermatitis and photosensitivity, notice our gardener's dirty hands, and a casal necklace rash, represented by our hippie's far-out neck ornamentation. What makes Hartnup disease unique among the various causes of pellagra is its pathophysiology. Let's take a closer look at his garden plots. Hartnup disease is a congenital disorder of neutral amino acid transporters. These transporters are found on the renal tubules as well as along the GI tract. Take a second to appreciate how the gardener's plots are shaped. The plot on the left looks a lot like the GI tract. See those characteristic haustra folds? And the one on the right looks like the kidney tubules. This should help us remember the primary sites of tryptophan absorption that are impacted by the Hartnup mutation. Next, let's discuss why defects in these transporters cause pellagra-like symptoms. Take a look at how our gardener is trying to remove this trippy fan from his bed, only to be foiled by that mesh netting. I'm guessing he didn't put that netting around his own garden, someone else did, thinking they were helping out. Doesn't that guy know that this stuff kills sea turtles and destroys the habitats of other wildlife? Don't they know what the destruction of a keystone species does to an ecosystem? Ugh. Anyway, trippy fans are a recurring symbol for tryptophan, and our gardener struggling to remove this trippy fan from his kidney and GI-shaped plots should remind you that tryptophan absorption is impaired in Hartnup disease. As for why this happens, we've already established that Hartnup disease is a congenital disorder of the transporter for neutral amino acids, particularly tryptophan. Now, take a look at those trippy fans in our gardener's heart-shaped turnip plots. I guess this really is a community garden. Trippy fan tryptophan is lost by our Hartnup patients in the kidneys and GI tracts, which is symbolized by all the trippy fans left in our renal and gut-shaped garden plots. Now, this loss of tryptophan wouldn't matter all that much if it didn't also serve an important biological purpose. If you watched our scene on niacin, you would remember that tryptophan is an essential building block for the synthesis of niacin. So it makes sense that Hartnup patients would present with signs of niacin deficiency, or pellagra-like symptoms, since they have trouble absorbing one of the vital components of niacin synthesis, tryptophan. Now let's discuss treatments. Take a look in front of our struggle-bussing gardener. Looks like he's brought along a knife and some protein powder. He seems to have already started to use the knife to cut through that vile, unrecyclable synthetic mesh to retrieve his trippy fans. Knives are a recurring symbol for niacin, and it makes sense that niacin treats Hartnup disease since all of the presenting symptoms of pellagra are related to niacin deficiency. The plant protein powder he's brought along to feed his freaky heart-shaped turnips represents another important treatment for Hartnup disease, high-protein diet. This makes sense too, since the underlying tryptophan transporter deficiency causing Hartnup can be overcome by consuming large amounts of tryptophan in the diet. In fact, heart-nut disease is really only symptomatic when patients aren't eating enough protein, making it easy to remember that a high-protein diet is an effective treatment. Finally, turn your attention to the background where we can see our gardener's sweet ride. Of course, it's a smart car. Did you expect some gas-guzzling, earth-destroying SUV? At Pixorize, we symbolize autosomal recessive inheritance with smaller vehicles like smart cars. Heart-nut disease is inherited in an autosomal recessive pattern. And that about does it for heart-nut disease and our series on the vitamin B3. Now that you're armed with all this nice niacin knife knowledge, you should be able to slice through any step questions pertaining to vitamin B3 and its associated disorders. Just make sure you recycle your scratch paper and try to carpool to the testing center on exam day. We all have to do our part. Until next time.